Welcome to this fourth episode of Basically Speaking. As usual, we are your host. I am Pragyan Thapa and I'm joined by Professor Devinder Thapa.
Namaste.
And so I think we can start with the reflection on the last episode. I think we got a lot of good feedback for our episode on argumentative fallacies.
Yeah, because maybe we were also doing a lot of fallacies in our argumentation. But I think that was a good one. We got some good comments. And thank you for watching and giving very encouraging comments. We are looking forward to such comments in the future as well.
Yeah, I think so far the episodes we've shot, so it was the episode that has gotten the most views.
Yeah.
And also most interactions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then, so hopefully we will get 1 million view.
And that's the target. And then we can retire and easily work on this full time.
We will do this full time. Every day one episode.
Yeah. So I think. So what is the episode that we're shooting today about? I mean, I think it's the idea basically came from you. So what is the topic that we are going to discuss today?
Yeah, this time, I thought we should talk about some book. Yeah. Right? Because it's a good idea to sometimes review some books, talk about the books. Even the interesting thing, maybe the regular viewer will find some content related to episode 1, 2, 3.
Okay. So there's a link.
There's a link.
Okay.
And our all episode has some link.
Yeah.
After 10 episodes, if someone figure out that link, then we will provide a ticket to Hawaii.
Yeah, so I think we're doing a bit different today.
Yeah.
So he has brought a book that he's recently read.
Going to talk about this book. Yuval now Harari, seems like we are doing advertisement for him, so we'll charge 20% for whatever sales the company will do. Yeah, this book is called Nexus. And the subtitle is A Brief History of Information Networks from the Stone Age to AI.
Yeah. So I think this is a book that he recently read, and we kind of had a talk before shooting this episode that I think it'll be a good idea to discuss. So I have not read the book entirely. So he's read the book entirely. Right. I've only gone through the introduction chapter, and today's discussion would be more gaining some insights or his perspective of reading this book. So my job here is to just be a curious person who has not read the book, and his job is to discuss ideas about this book and what he felt that resonated with him.
But Pragyan is smart because his views, so he is not confirmed that maybe the interpretation I'll make is the right interpretation of the book.
Yeah.
I think what he says, he said in one of the interviews, he said, the history for me is not reading or knowing about the past, but it is to study about the change. So that's a very interesting idea of history, right? So history is more about what kind of changes happen. Yeah. So in Homo sapiens, he says how we from apes to become intelligent being or Homo sapiens, right? And in this one, he's talking more about how this information technology went through different trajectories, some changes and bigger changes in human history, you can say that.
So let me begin by asking, what drew you to this book? Was it because you were already familiar with the author's work, or was the subject in itself drew you?
Yeah, both, because I read his Homo sapiens. He connects all the dots very nicely. So I like the way he writes books. It's like Basically Speaking.
Okay.
So I explain the thing in a very easy way.
So was he an inspiration to do this podcast?
Seems like some implicit, some unconscious mind.
Okay. Anyway.
But he is one of the inspiration. To learn how to write and how to write to the general audience, so that they can understand this kind of difficult subject in an easy way. So, because one of the reason why Homo sapiens took over the universe is we have the ability to tell or create stories. And through stories, we form communities and the nations and the religions. All these are through stories. So he's very good in telling stories.
Yeah.
Information. So what he says in the book is, the naive understanding of information is when you have more information, then we will go closer to the reality. Right? If you have more data about, let's say, Kathmandu, then you get better GPS map or something.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the idea.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's a naive understanding. More information lead to truth, and truth lead to wisdom. Right? Another, he says, other idea of information is, if you have more information, then information is power. Right? So more information, more power. More data, more power.
Yeah.
That's another narrative of this one.
But isn't it the conventional wisdom that we have about information that if there's more information, it leads to knowledge? So there's this basic understanding where there's data, and you make meaningful, you turn data into meaningful information, and that information then leads to knowledge. So you're saying that this is a naive understanding.
That's
naive. Not you, but Harari argues that this is a naive.
He said it's a naive understanding. So what he's saying is, if more information means better understanding of the reality, then we have so much information right now. But we are lost, actually. We are forgetting our own existence. What he's saying is, we are going far and far from the reality. So everything is becoming illusion, as Buddha will say. Truth is illusion, right?
Yeah.
Even if you say information lead to truth or reality, reality are three kinds of realities, he says. There's objective reality, right? So gravity is an objective reality. Whether we think about gravity or not, if I say there's no gravity and jump from the roof, I will die.
Yeah.
So that's the objective reality, right? Subjective reality is our feeling of pain. When I get hurt, I will have pain. That's real, right? That's a subjective, is within me. So I cannot share with others. So he said these are the objective realities, but then there is third kind of reality that is more dominating.
Okay.
And that's the intersubjective reality.
Okay.
Right? Intersubjective, we create through social construction of reality, you can say that. That's the more powerful, that's where all these stories come from, right? The myths, stories, and all that.
So what is the difference between subjective and intersubjective?
Subject is more like my personal experience of some reality. As I said, my feeling, my pain, right? So it's very subjective to me.
So it is subjective to an individual?
To individuals, right? Intersubjective is when certain reality created by the group of the people or the society. So one example is money, right? If you see this dollar or Bitcoin, those are intersubjective realities. This Bitcoin or the money or the dollar or rupiah, it only exists when we all together actually believe in that story. That's what he says. So it's a story, right? Reality is created intersubjectively.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, if everyone stop believing in that, then it's no more exist actually. That's the intersubjective.
So
now here he goes with the evolution of the information, right? But he says, Homo sapiens, when our ancestors were hunters, they still use the information, but it was not written. Right? And they have a very few vocabularies, but it doesn't mean they didn't have information. First, this written information came. The idea was to actually count. Your oral story become the intersubjective reality in written form, right? That's where we need this writing form and then accounting, and this is where the bureaucracy comes. So the bureaucracy, he said, bureaucracy is, bureau literally means drawer.
Drawer,
because they have a lot of information, and now you need to put in the order, right? So they used to have drawer, like in olden days, in the library, you have cabinets, and then you put the books and all that. So that's a bureau. That's why it's called the bureaucracy. So the job of bureaucracy actually is to keep all this information in order.
In the drawer.
In the drawer, yeah, right? So that's a bureaucracy. So if you see here, so it's not about the truth. What people are more interested is to put the society in order. So the information become the means to put the system in order or the society in order. Now this order can be for the good purpose or for the bad purpose. So either
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think you've touched upon a very challenging idea where, like, okay, information is not knowledge, but it's information is generated or used to kind of control and order.
Use information to go closer to the truth, right?
Yeah, that is what science.
We collect the data, we do the analysis and everything to know the truth. If you look from the science perspective. But do you think government also interested to know the truth?
I mean, if you listen to what the government says, it's always say we'll make policies based on informed decisions, right?
Yeah. So when we say government, don't keep the biased idea of corrupt government. Okay? We are talking about the government in general.
Okay.
So when we say government, so government is not very interested in identifying the truth. They are more interested in how to create order in the society.
That
right?
I can agree. Yeah.
So that's where the bureaucracy, the main purpose of bureaucracy, when we say bureaucracy is bad, the idea is bureaucracy can be used in both ways. It can be used the way I want to control or order the society, or the way that will make the society more efficient.
Okay.
If you take the religious book, there are many statements that are not fact, not history, right? But we still believe in that one. And then that keeps our society in order.
Yeah.
So tomorrow if you say, science figure out God doesn't exist. We found the origin of the whole universe, right? And then there is nothing called God. It will really create the chaos in the society. So his idea is, so sometimes we have to somehow sacrifice truth in some point to create the order. But just to create the order, we cannot sacrifice all the truth. So there should be some truth as well. So the best thing is when you have a truth and order together, right? The closer they are, the better actually society we have. But it doesn't happen in reality, what he's saying is. And where does this nexus comes? His idea is, now this information itself doesn't create this power, order or truth. So it always needs some network. So the what Harari is saying is, when this intersubjective reality, we turn it into objective reality, then it's a dangerous thing. So intersubjective reality should change with the time. You see, that's how, like you said, the money. We used to have the paper money, right? And then we get rid of. Now we have digital money. So now we will have Bitcoin in some point, right? So the form is changing. So thus our trust is also trust on money is also changing, right? The story is changing. So we have a new story. So what happens with this? Like Stalin, he gave the example, Stalin and Hitler, because they created intersubjective stories or myth, communism, and then the better race and all that.
Nazism.
Nazism. So they start believing in that intersubjective reality as the objective reality. And that's the dangerous.
On this idea of self-correcting mechanism, so is it about and linking it to the intersubjective reality? Because we also talked about how these intersubjective realities are constructed over time, and then sometimes they can become objective.
When we start believing that it's objective, it doesn't become objective, but we start to believe that this is like a law of nature. We stick to it, right? So this is where he criticized these religious scriptures, because it's a story. But we start to believe that this is the real, objective truth.
So self-correcting is like we are correcting that narrative and that story over time?
Exactly. So self-correcting is, let's say, self-correcting is when we talk about truth and the order, right? Power, knowledge and wisdom. When we try to, we see this story, because for order, you need some story. This intersubjective stories, right? The stories are, as the information nexus is used to create an order. if this order is just purpose to control, and you are taking this order farther from the truth, that's dangerous, right? So the balance is, self-correcting mechanism is, if this order, the story, has some error, then we should be able to fix it.
Okay.
And then try to bring it closer to the truth. Then it will lead to the wisdom, right?
Okay.
So he says, if it's a democracy, philosophically, I'm not talking about democracy in the US or India or Nepal, right? What he says, if it's a real liberal democracy system, then there are government, they create some stories. But then there are other bodies, right? Legal bodies, media, and then the civil societies, many academics. They actually keep on nagging them. If you try to create some wrong stories, they will actually fix it. They will say, no, there's some. So that's called the feedback mechanism, right? So this is how this mechanism automatically correct, self-correcting mechanism, right? That's the idea of the very liberal democratic system, which is not possible in totalitarianism.
So I think I was when I was reading the introduction, the preface of the book, he had this interesting point where, like, he talks about Trump is somehow a Marxist. And he links these ideas to how populists also kind of think. So can you discuss a little bit picking on this self-correcting mechanism? And then
that's very nice, because he said there's a democracy, and he said the self-correcting mechanism in democracy is complex.
Okay.
But when people say that democracy is simple, then they are populist, because they make it simple.
Okay.
So they use the rhetoric. I believe in the freedom of everyone. So when they say everyone, they are talking about the 50% majority, not about the minorities, right?
Okay.
That's
into so his idea of the dangers of intersubjective reality becoming a concrete reality. So how does he kind of relate it to the ongoing debate around AI? So
So remember, in the background, all this is information is always in the background, right? Where does this story come from? Because there's a nexus of the different actors that come together, create some kind of stories, right? And then it becomes intersubjective reality. And then people start believing in that one. And now we have information technology, right? Now we have more and more information overload.
Okay.
And a lot of social media. And social media is using disinformation or misinformation. You know the difference, right? Disinformation, when you actually intentionally, modify the information, right? That's a disinformation. And misinformation is by mistake. I'm ignoring about something and I'm just circulating this information. So these things are happening more and more because of information technology revolution, right? That's the situation right now.
Okay.
So if you see here, what is the dangers out here you see? Because when we think about information as a truth, we are not going nearer to the truth.
No.
Information as an order, it may create order. It may create majority of tribal sects, because of this social media storytelling. Up to that point is fine, because he said, still if human are in the loop, because he said, okay, we have these religious scriptures, but still there are people who actually knows that where is a source. With the Vedas, right? So still you have possibility to go back to the source and then make some changes. Self-correcting mechanism, right? What if this story tomorrow is created by AI? Then you don't know the source, right? Where is the self-correcting mechanism? That's the dangers he's talking about. With the democracy, still there is some hope, because democracy is always distributed systems, right? So there are different groups, distributed groups, but they have their own the way of looking into the truth and the order and the power. They
have like
self-correcting mechanism, much better in democratic system. Yeah.
So I think, but even though they say democracy, where like say the people have more freedom to voice their opinion against controlling governments, or like any kind of interventions where they feel that like citizens can initiate activism kind of thing. But still, democracy is also at threat when such kind of AI kind of self-creates these kind of, or is it only a question where like more importance or much more relevant to totalitarian governments?
No. It is also relevant to the democratic societies, because when we say democracy nowadays, it's like 51% majority is a democratic system. So we don't have an actual democracy, right? Yes. So his idea is so there's always possibility that this minority may actually be exploited. Minority not in the sense of actual physical people, as I said, digitally creating their own sect, right? So and deep fakes nowadays, and then about the election thing, this Cambridge Analytica and all that stuff. So there are many. So democratic society has self-correcting mechanism. Therefore, it is better than other totalitarian regime. However, it is not error-free.
Okay.
Right? Because a distributed system, and if the distributed system start to create their own stories and it's incompatible, not aligning, then it will be more chaos.
Okay. So I think we've so far discussed some important insights from the book. But are there also some portions of the book or like some arguments of the book that you don't agree with, or you might want to challenge the author? Are there any?
I think I will challenge them. Then I'll get famous. No, as I said, it's a futuristic book, right? Futuristic book means sometimes it goes in between non-fiction and fiction.
Okay. Speculation.
Speculation. So it's this kind of anecdotes, and then it will happen in everywhere. And then it will lead to this and that, and finally AI will capture everything. So then he leads to the dystopian history generalization. So that is there, but still it's a story. So
some powerful ideas, but I mean he is also you can criticize him for doing some hasty generalization as such.
And he's not a computer scientist.
Okay,
right. So I don't think. Computer scientists have the same. I got emotional.
Yeah, exactly. So
another thing. As I said, he is not a computer scientist, so most of the things are speculations, right? Maybe he's not aware about the complications of the algorithms and coding and all that, but maybe he's aware. Other thing is, when I read the book, I feel like it's written from a very developed world perspective. I will not say Western perspective, very developed world perspective. And then as a Nepali, when I think, I feel so scared. I feel like we don't exist anywhere. I mean, in this society, we don't even exist. So that might have been a little bit, he might have shown some potentials, the affordances of AI for this kind of nations who are not able to grow up. So those, but he said in one of the interviews, I just said about the negative consequences because there are many books that talks about the positive things. But still...
but I think I would also argue that there are a lot of books that are only focusing on the negative consequences.
Yeah, so that's something I miss as a person from the developing country. It seems like these examples are all from Western perspective, and he's speaking some examples from Iran and from China with the perspective, those are the bad examples. Then you get the idea that maybe these countries have the bad implications or implementations of these systems. Just to impose that because they have some incidents of bad incidents, so therefore
generalizing.
The implementation will be bad. So maybe not. Right?
Yeah. So I think we've at least covered a lot of ideas that is in this book, and I think talking with you about this book has made me a bit interested to continue reading the book, and I hope the audience who are watching this video are also intrigued, and they might order it or they might look for this book and read it. And I think it is I wouldn't, like, as you said, it's not a perfect book, but it has some lot of good ideas that will make us think more about the role of information in our world, and how we can use that the ideas of the books to kind of think about AI and how it's evolving, and what future would look like in this AI enabled world. Anything else do you want to add before we call it a day?
Yeah, I think the thing we discuss here is a very general idea of the book, right? But there are many interesting examples as well, real examples. So I would suggest to read this book, because the whole idea, I think, of Yuval Harari, with this book, which we always say, with the basically speaking, to make people aware about this. What he's saying is, I'm not a computer scientist. And the reason I want to tell these stories is because I want to make the society aware about these consequences. What he's saying is, it's not necessary the thing will happen like this, but we need to be aware about the consequences. Right now, many people, let's say in Nepal, right, or any other part of the world, even in Norway, we are not aware, because it's so new system and we don't know what will be the consequences. And we keep on building. And then what he's saying, no, we need to pace down. You need to understand. It is not as like coming up with this printing press or the agricultural revolution or industrial revolution. This is much different than those, because this alien intelligence can make its own stories and create its own order, and it is use its power to actually control the whole human society.
Okay. So now I think that's a great way to end this episode, and we will come back in the next episode, and with some new topics and new ideas related to technology, related to social change, and related to development. So stay tuned, and thank you very much for listening to us, watching us, and hope you will support us in the coming episodes as well.